Hey folks, how we doing? It's Mr. Carter here, ready to do math lesson 7.9, generating and identifying patterns. All right, let's get going. All right. So our learning target today is this. I understand how to generate and I analyze patterns in rectangular numbers. And we're going to get into what is in a rectangular number and look at some patterns with that. So here's our math message. So it says here, use centimeter cubes to build a 1 by 2 array, a 2 by 3 array, and a 3 by 4 array. And of course, if you're watching this at home, you don't have centimeter cubes. So I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So here, my friends, is your 1 by 2 array, and then your 2 by 3 array here, and your 3 by 4 array. So that's exactly what that looks like here. All right. So I want you to think about what patterns do you notice with these rectangular arrays? So here's some things you may have noticed, and I should have told you to kind of pause the video and think about that. But anyway, here's some things you may have noticed. Well, for one, all these arrays are rectangles. All right. So as you can see here, this rectangle, rectangle, these are all rectangles. Now, each array has an even number of cubes. That's something else you may have noticed. So, for example, this has two cubes here, this first rectangular array. This one here has six. If you count them up, there would be six. And this one has 12. So all of these have an even number of cubes. Now, you may have also noticed that each array, as it gets bigger, you add one row and one column. So here we go. So here we added a row and a column. So we had one row here and then this column here. Same thing here. So if you look here, we have the original six. So this would be the original six. And then if you add another row here and then another column here, that's how they build upon each other. So again, that's another pattern you may have noticed. All right, so a question for you. Do you remember what square numbers are? Well, yeah, there are numbers that make squares arrays, and this is what they look like here. So they are, and let me just move this thing over here. So you get a square number when you multiply a number by itself. So for example, um, this first one here is a 2 by 2 array, which gives you 4. So 4 is a square number. This array here is a 3 by 3 because you multiply 3 by itself, and then you would get 9 there. So here is a 4 by 4 array, and that gives you 16. So 4, 9, and 16 are all square numbers. Now here, my friends, back to our rectangular arrays. These, my friends, are the first model, or sorry, are the models for the first three rectangular numbers. These right here. So 2 is your first rectangular number, 6 is your second rectangular number, and 12 is your third rectangular number. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to look for patterns with rectangular numbers. Here again are our rectangular arrays. Question: what multiplication equations can we make with these arrays? Well, our first multiplication equation here would be a 1 times 2, and that we know is 2. Our second multiplication equation would be 2 times 3, and that, my friends, is 6. And your last one here would be 3 times 4, which equals 12. So do you see a pattern? So let's talk about that. All the factors, so these factors here, like 1 times 2, 2 times 3, 3 times 4, are two counting numbers in order. So here we go. If we started counting, we'd go 1. So 1, 2, 3, right? So for every array, we just count 1, 2, 3. And then the next factor is the next counting number. So that's why we go 1 times 2, 2 times 3, 3 times 4. 1 times 2 again, let's do that again. 2 times 3, and 3 times 4. So if that was the case, what would the next two rectangular numbers be? Okay, well, if you said 4 times 5, you're correct. See, 4 is the next counting number, and then we just go to the next number up, which is 5. And that, of course, is 20. So 20 is our next rectangular number. So the next rectangular number after that would be 5 times 6. So again, we're going 5, and then the next number up is 6. And that, my friends, is 30. Now let's look at some other pattern, or another pattern. If we were to break apart our first rectangular array, what addition number sentence would we be able to make? Well, let's take this rectangular array and break it apart. So it would be 1 cube and 1 cube, right? We just take those two and split them apart. That would be 1 plus 1 equals 2. Now, if we took this second rectangular array and we split it up, we would go 4 times 2, or 4 plus 2, and that would, my friends, would equal 6. So the first addends are square numbers. As you can see here, 1 is a square number, 4 is a square number. So if that's the case, what would how would we split this next one up? So again, keeping in mind that the pattern is the first addends are square numbers. Well, we would break apart this rectangular array here and using this square number, which, my friends, is 9, right? And then the 3 left over would be 3. So it would be 9 plus 3 equals 12. And then again, the first addends are all square numbers. See, 1's a square number, 4 is a square number, and 9 is also a square number. So that's just another pattern using these rectangular arrays. So now what I want to do is go through and do page 252 in your math journal, and we're going to do the first two together, and then we'll have you do the rest on your own. So let's look at number 1 and 2. So it's asking you to draw the next 3 rectangular numbers. Well, as we were talking about before, their first one here is a 1 by 2, 1 times 2. This one's a 2 by 3. And again, 3 times 4, and we know that the next one is 4 times 5. And again, if we're counting, so the next one's going to be a 5 by 6, which we talked about before. And then after 5 times 6, it would be 6 times 7. And that's what that looks like. So again, 6 dots going up, 7 dots going across. Next one would be 7 times 8. And there you go again, 7 dots up, 8 dots across. Number 2 is asking you to complete the list of the first 10 rectangular numbers. So they've given us the first 6 here. So we've got to come up with 4 more rectangular numbers. So the first one, as we did, was 1 times 2, that's 2. 2 times 3, 6. 3 times 4 is 12, and so on. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 6 is 30. 6 times 7 is 42, right? So the next one is going to be 7 times 8, and that is 56, right? So the one after that would be, 8 times 9, which is 72. 9 times 10 is 90, and 10 times 11 is 110. So it's asking you, how'd you get your answers? Well, here's a sample response. I kept multiplying the next two counting numbers. So I knew 42 is 6 times 7. So to find the next rectangular number, I multiplied 7 times 8 equals 56, and so on and so on. So now, my friends, I would like you to work on the next problems here on the rest of page 253, the rest of this page and 253 as well. See how you do. If you have questions, go ahead and reach out to your teacher. All right, hope this was helpful. Take care.